Oh yeah, today's music brought to you by Joe Joseph. Oh yeah, down and low. You liking this, Scotty?
Actually, it's very chill. I actually do enjoy it, to tell you the truth.
And of course,
No
look at this here, Scott. One of our most famous landmarks in the whole of Scotland. Well, Glasgow. The Coned statue. Yes, indeed. Taking its pride and place. Tell you what, man. I don't know what it is with these cones, but we've started something here. And the little guy in the corner, look at the little guy in the corner. Little cone-tastic there.
It's very nice.
Yes, that comes from one of our viewers out in Portugal. A huge shout out to the Crochet Couple. You can find them on Facebook. And they have provided us with the new cone emoji. Yes, it went through an upgrade. Don't panic, folks. We're still 5 away from a new emoji. But yes, this new one provided to us by Fred Doe in the chat room. So how you doing, guys?
Yash.
Yes, back
Doing
again.
excellent.
Ready for another day of madness?
The madness never ends, does it?
Do you like our fourth guest today, Scott? I thought
Very nice.
yes, I've invited along the Georgia Guidestones.
Why not? I mean, it is, of course, the industry standard of the Illuminati.
Well, when there's people in the centre of Glasgow trying to save the planet by literally arresting a bunch of broccoli, I think it's hard at this point to struggle or to argue against some of the more controversial ideas and themes pushed in the Guidestones, such as the depopulation agenda. I know it's not going to be popular, but I really am starting to see no hope for humanity unless we do get rid of separate the wheat from the chaff, shall we say, Joe?
Yeah. Separate the wheat from the chaff.
It's the most
eugenics every day. Yeah.
Yeah, that was my algorithm-friendly way of saying maybe I'm going to start being a raging eugenicist. I don't know.
I can see you doing that.
No, but like I was saying there, though, this traffic cone thing, and anyone that's a member in the chat room, you'll notice now that you've got your brand new emoji. It's absolutely classic. And that's a big thank you to Fred Doe.
It looks fantastic.
Doesn't it look great? Doesn't it? I'll blow it up for us here so we can see it better. But I think that looks so cute. I think it's absolutely brilliant. Yes, indeed.
Yeah, he looks.
But we just need 5 new members. 4 new members. 4 new members, and we get to 100, and we unlock the next emoji. And of course, it used to be years ago we would talk about that utensil that rhymes with bedankle. And I don't know what it is about shows like this, but you need one of these items, one of these objects. And it's not that we're objectophiles or anything like that, but the traffic cone, there's something about this because the more I look into it, and I know it's a bit weird, well, why do you spend your time looking into traffic cones? Because it amazes me how many times these things actually feature prominently in stories. I mean, in the end of the day, they're just the same as any other inanimate object. In fact, they're quite limited because you would think the scope of where you would find them, you know, it's going to keep the kind of potential, Scott, for them to get involved in stories down to a minimum, but it's not true. It is not true. And we've even got stories here. I'm not going to get into it all, but this is the weird thing as well. Here we are doing the show. We always talk of synchronicities. And I'm in Glasgow, and I've been walking about for years knowing that our most famous statue here, Wellington, has got the traffic cones on it, right? It's like a running joke. The council freak out. Whenever somebody takes it down, we put it back up again. So isn't it weird how here we are on the weird weekend, and we've kind of had this synchronicity with the traffic cone, unplanned. You know, we've just kind of stumbled into it, per se. It's weird. And you've even got things like this, Joe. Check this out. This is hilarious.
Look at that. That is just unbelievable.
It gets better, dude.
A stack of traffic cones on the poor guy?
Yeah, but it gets better. It gets better, right? Well, first paragraph of this, right? But one Glasgow statue has had a few too many throughout the heat wave. Council bosses have finally intervened after the increasing number of traffic cones were balanced on top of the city's Duke of Wellington statue. Now, it's famous, dude, to the point of, get this, look, we even market it. look, the evolution of Glaswegians. You've got like steadily
That's
progressive.
funny.
But I
Or
must
Duke of
ask you,
Ellington.
I must
So-
ask, well, first of all, Joe, and Scott, can somebody please tell me what this gentleman, he's got a weird shape of head.
Okay, but what did he do to warrant getting a traffic cone put on his head? And then, how long has this tradition been going on for in Glasgow?
Forever. Look at the Google images, Joe. We're like famous for this, man. It's like a thing. You can Google it. There he is, look. See what I'm saying? Even the horse gets it.
Even the horse gets it.
Yeah.
Why?
And like I say, the council from time to time, they freak out and they go and they take it down and it'll be down for hours. And then like somebody will put like 10 on his head. It's like this constant battle between like, there's obviously some gang of vigilantes that nobody knows about that goes about.
Vigilante
Yeah, they're like
group.
vigilante cone wearing things. I don't know what you'd call them, man.
Colors. That's
Ninja
amazing.
conateers?
this-
I don't know. Look at that
But
one though.
that-
Look, they've decorated that one. That was a cool one.
So that's
Wow.
what you do, huh? It's just
But
like
you see,
an
boys, there's a
unauthorized and unsanctioned tradition.
well, you laugh and everything else, right? But you may do well to take heed of how things have gone here in the UK, and it might,
Why-
wait,
why do you do that?
it might temper your laughter and your joviality when it comes to the humble traffic cone, because
that
to
right?
one man the traffic cone's merely an object for, well, traffic things. To another, it's something completely different. But in the UK, where we have a very draconian gun ban, it can also become a really useful weapon. And step forward one very brave individual. There's always one person rises to the task when crisis meets them in the face. Check this out. Moped robbers tackled by a heroic shopper or shoppers armed with a traffic cone. Yes, your humble traffic cone is all you might have left to defend yourself one day, boys. So don't...
I'm thinking this is a very versatile object here.
Isn't it? Isn't it? Like out of all the objects in the world, there's something about the traffic cone. And we laughed last week, Joe, about that website. We thought that guy was off his head when he was talking about an invasion of traffic cones. I tell you what, dude, there's definitely something weird going on here, right?
This is definitely
So, moped gang who allegedly stole more than 150 in gold from a jeweler's were apprehended when a local shopkeepers and passers-by gave chase and cornered one of them. The robbers, who were armed with a machete, hammer and a crowbar, struck in broad daylight at the shop in Maida Vale, North London, during Monday evening rush hour. Footage captured by shocked bystanders on mobile phones showed the moment the gang, who were wearing motorbike helmets, burst out of the store and attempted to make their getaway, waiting on mopeds.
mopeds.
But then, step forward.
Mopeds.
Here we go, Joe. Step forward. That one individual, that one guy, right? Police were, but a group of heroic locals gave chase and managed to surround the gang, tackling them with makeshift weapons, including a belt and a traffic cone, sir. Yes, they took on machete-wielding robbers with the humble traffic cone.
See, that's oh boy. that's a shit.
Look. That's how you
Look
do it.
Look at that. I can't believe it.
This is what happens. This is what happens if you let them come for your bang bangs. Telling you.
Get that. Oh my goodness.
Isn't it interesting though how he went out dressed as a traffic cone?
But look at him, man. I mean, look at the guy. He is. He's dressed like a traffic cone.
Yeah.
You're a traffic cone. Wow.
Never fear, Cone Man is here.
It could be.
Give
Maybe he
that
is
man a Coney award. He deserves the Coney.
Wow.
Yeah.
Unbelievable.
If anything, I mean, this is just more proof that the traffic cone is the sacred relic, the sacred object of the UK and especially Scotland.
You know, look at the
It
behavior.
really is.
Look at the behavior side of this, though, too. What is, first of all,
Here we go.
oh, there you go. Well, what is the motivation of people, to actually take on these people? Now, why did these people go and tackle
Because,
them?
Joe, in that moment of fight or flight, your alpha male rises to the occasion, my friend. He steps forward. Where some men run, other men stand and fight. And he took the traffic code.
Yes, they went inside. They have a knife. They're attacking people. I don't know the.
Oh, I see the traffic code guy. Did you see him there in the orange?
Nah.
Aye, man, he's back there.
Oh, look at them, man. They're like all freaking.
Oh, we never seen the good bit.
A melee, dude.
What, does this not happen in America, the moped robbers?
No.
This is how they go and
really.
hijack cars and things as well. Yeah, mopeds, man.
I can see in the UK how it would be a thing because the streets are so congested.
And I think
so
it gets
small.
you around the road tax kind of stuff as well. I think they're considered
Yes,
cleaner.
So the moped is more maneuverable and kind of.
But those are larger mopeds too, though, Scotty. You know, those. See, here you skirt all the requirements if it's 50 cc or below, right? So that's how they do it. So they don't go more than 30, 35 miles an hour, maybe with the wind pushing at your back. And they don't accelerate awful fast. As a matter of fact, you could probably out accelerate it running, at least, but I just don't see them pulling off the high school.
And the police over there in the UK, they don't have like fast chase cruisers, do they? You know what I mean?
There's no room for it.
Yeah, there's no room for any of that. So I mean, it would make more sense, I guess, that you would probably see.
Because over here they use SUVs or crossovers a lot of times.
Like Dodge Chargers
But yeah, it's that bad over here in the UK, boys. Like they've even done like studies on this crap. Why do people put traffic cones on statues? Yes, indeed, because the BBC
study about it. Kev, are you serious?
Well, this is what I was thinking when I was reading this. Imagine growing up, right? Your whole life wanting to win a Pulitzer Prize, wanting to be that journalistic kind of investigative reporter, that bloodhound, getting to the real bottom of the story, and you end up writing about traffic cones on statues. Glasgow Council has ended plans to stop pranksters placing traffic cones on top of a statue of the Duke of Wellington. It's part of a long tradition of tomfoolery, says Finlow Rorer. The placing of traffic cones on historic statues can be blamed on two factors: alcohol and the prevalence of roadworks of some kind in the city centre. Look, there's another cracker there. Look.
That's so fun. Ooh, who's that?
That's Queen Victoria.
Okay.
Not a good-looking woman. Probably not good to fat shame somebody in 2019, but she was a big girl.
Yeah, but the issue is
there's New Zealand. Look, New Zealand are at it as well. It's not just us Scots. It's a thing. It's a phenomenon.
So it's Scottish tradition.
Yeah. So it says a diadem placed on a statue of Julius Caesar arguably started a chain of events that resulted in his murder. There's nothing new to this, boys. In fact, it goes back to the ancient times, and the beginning of the end of the Roman Empire. The beginning of the Roman Empire. The diadem was removed by two tribunes depicted as Flavius and Marulus in the Shakespearean play, and then the trouble started. At the height of the Peloponnesian War between Sparta and Athens,
David Morgan owns largest traffic cone collection.
See, cool, there's even somebody who owns the largest collection. What is going on? So, in the 5th century BC, the Athenian general Alcibiades was recalled from a massive invasion.
Those Greek names.
Yes, of Sicily, charged with vandalizing religiously significant statues of Hermes. And he decided to defect on the Spartans rather than face trumped-up charges. Imagine this is like your job, but this is what you've been tasked with by the BBC to write about.
Amazing.
Man, give up. Command then passed to the less talented Nicias, and the invasion was a disaster, and the Athenians later lost the war. It's still not known who really mashed up the statues. There's another one there from Nottingham. That's quite a cool one. In 2000, the statue of Winston Churchill in Parliament Square was memorably given a Mohican made out of turf. But the statue was sprayed with graffiti for which a former soldier was later imprisoned for 30 days. The same
Yeah, it looks like
statue.
there's a lot of tomfoolery, but the majority of it happens in the UK.
Big time.
Why? Why is
And the sexual proclivity towards traffic cones seems to be confined to the UK.
Yeah, yeah. I don't understand that at all, Kev. Not one bit.
Don't worry, folks. We're going to get into the grand solar minimum in a moment, but I just thought it's kind of weird how we keep on, and especially with our new little cone friend that we've got today. Yeah. That is so cool with his little bloodshot eyes. Look at him. So yeah, there's actually a deep history when it goes to the traffic cones. So it says the same statue was again adorned in 2012 with a straitjacket on behalf of Channel 4 to publicise a series on mental health. And also last year, a series of statues across London were provided with hats by notable British milliners in a project linked to the Olympics. Some criticised that move as tacky and even compared it unfavourably with the Glasgow tradition. Look at Glasgow. I mean, that's how we roll here. You know, it's not just headwear in the form of cones or hats. AS Roma fan Enzo Giordani travelled New Zealand adorning random statues with scarves. So yeah, it goes on to talk about that, but yeah.
But you know what? At least this person really did a bang-up job on the history of statue abuse.
Really? Statues too.
I mean, if ever there was a go-to source for the history of violating statues,
Well, we try and get him on the show.
I don't know, man.
It looks like it might even have been written by an AI. Look, it's just got a picture of a computer there.
Yeah.
Magazine monitor. Yeah.
Maybe that was very early AI. That was like it training.
Maybe, dude. Yeah, it looks weird.
Yeah. But
So,
hey,
yeah.
good article on it. Because I had no idea.
There you go. Like I say, it's the subject that just continues to give us.
Maybe the Duke of Wellington, there was some kind of pent up hatred towards the guy, to be honest with you.
No, just in Glasgow, it's just how we roll. Alcohol does play a big part in this. I must admit, it does.
Now is that right in downtown Glasgow?
Oh yeah, it's right at George Square, right beside it.
Okay.
Yeah.
So that's
like you can
why.
see. I mean, it's like where all the lovely big old buildings are, you know.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah. So
So not by you then.
no, actually, only about 10 minutes walk, Joe. I'm like the east end of the city centre.
Okay.
Yeah. The wild part. The wild part. Yes. So listen, today, let's get into something a little more serious now. Well, we'll look at the absolutely ridiculous to get us to the serious. And down in London, we've got this Extinction Rebellion. And we had Charlie Robinson on the show last week, and amazing kind of presentation, information about who Extinction Rebellion really are. And I've called them useful idiots. I'm sure their intentions are pure. But when you see some of the stuff that they're getting up to, guys, it's just ridiculous. And I think nothing epitomizes that more than the video we're about to watch here, where you're going to watch grown men and women acting out the arrest of is it a sprig of broccoli or like a bunch of broccoli? What's the plural for broccoli? I wouldn't want to like misidentify it. What's the pronoun for it?
I don't know.
Damn, broccoli pronouns, please. No, here we go. Check this out.
Pile of broccoli.
Here we go. Pile of broccoli. Here we go. Centre of London. People trying to save the world. Look at these geniuses go.
are they wearing clown noses?
Yes, my friend, they are. Yes, look. Yep.
What are they doing?
And you know the ironic thing about this, or something I find ironic anyway? Every single time they have a protest, it justifies at least 2 police helicopters in the sky, which are like choking the atmosphere. I find that amusing. I don't know, but this is the genius level.
Trying to figure out like what this is all about.
I've no idea. I've no idea.
How does broccoli play into it? I don't understand.
I don't know what the broccoli symbolizes.
It was saving the planet.
So, well, from what I've heard, this is what I think that they're trying to.
Enlighten us, Scott. Come on, man.
Okay, go for it.
Is that broccoli isn't a indigenous sort of crop to the UK?
Is it alien?
And that the farming of broccoli, the cultivation of broccoli somehow is detrimental to the environment.
Joe's face. Joe, could you please look down at my new guest, the Guidestones, please? See below. Recommendation number 3, I think it is. Yeah. So yes, this is the ongoing like autumn of discontent that we're in right now. You know, where they're bringing London, but they're bringing London to a standstill. But Scott, you've seen the same videos I did, where geniuses from these same ranks of people, where they find them, I have absolutely no idea. What were they doing on the subway, Scott?
Well, they were holding up the tube train, and you have people trying to get to work, right, and make some money and support their families, and you have these absolute geniuses jumping on top of the tube train and you know, ruining everyone's day pretty much. And
it's just amazing. I mean, these people are, oh my God.
The Londoners, you know, your average person, I mean, they just had enough of it. It looked like they were like, this is ridiculous. And so a couple of them jumped up on the train and shoved them off the train, and others were like grabbing their legs and just yanking them off the train. And, you know, they're just like, get the hell off the train. You know, we're trying to, you're holding everything up. You know, everyone's trying to get to work and stuff. And yeah, it looked like a couple of them, when they fell into the crowd, it looked like a little bit of an ass whooping commenced. Because it's ridiculous. And then, you know what? They're blocking the train. The train's sitting there, right? Probably using more electricity or more fuel, right? Because they've held everything
about that stuff, right?
And remember, the important part about all of this is, you know, what that Extinction Rebellion, what their actual motives are, what their agenda is. And in reality, we talked about it the other day, you know, they want us deindustrialized by like 2025 or something. They're talking about driving us into a level of recession and hardship that this country's never even seen before. And even in their own documents, they talk about the overthrowing of government and things. So, you know, useful idiots, like I say. And all of this in the name of climate change, and all of that started by talking about global warming. But the more and more, Scotty, on you go.
These are your radical, basically radical extremist environmentalists, right?
Some of
the
them.
Kind would like, yeah, I mean,
and the rest are kids that have been brainwashed.
The kind that would like go out and blow up a pipeline and cause an oil spill just so they can be like, look at how bad the oil spill was, right? Like they would cause a lot of the problems, you know, in order to get some kind of a response, right? Like reminds me a lot of Elf. Remember Elf?
Yep.
The Earth Exploration Front.
Yep.
They were the same way, you know. They were basically like eco-terrorists. You know, they would sabotage things. They would blow stuff up. They would do all kinds of like crazy stuff, you know. And I see a lot of that same kind of mindset in this extinction rebellion thing. You have a lot of those same kind of like fringe
Because it's like a cult.
out there. Yeah.
The whole thing is very culty. It really is. And what gets me, Joe, is the fact that a lot of them too do think that they're probably doing good, right? And they're going to save the planet by arresting broccoli in the middle.
Exactly. Yeah, they're all
but Joe,
well-intentioned, I'm sure.
their intentions would be better focused on real problems. And as opposed to the science being settled and things like that, I had Danny Arnold McKenney on my show during the week. She mentioned something called the grand solar minimum. We were talking about the magnetic field. And that got me thinking. And then listening to Max Egan today, and this is where it all started clicking for me, and I thought, right, we need to talk about this. He's talking about the grand solar minimum. And of course, this would hint more, as opposed to a warming period like we were told for years, and now it's just climate change, I get that. But the realistic chance is that we're going into some kind of cooling phase. And it's this grand solar minimum. Now it's come up a couple of times randomly for me. And Scott, I know you've been looking at this over time. Joe, this is something that fits with you as well. Got a little clip here from Suspicious Observers. And
very good.
We'll only play the first couple of minutes of this.
That guy.
But for anyone out there who doesn't know what we're talking about the cycles of the sun. And you get solar minimums and solar maximums every 11 years. We know that. But then there's also grand solar minimums, a period of prolonged no sun activity. So let's hear what Ben Davidson, Suspicious Observers, has to say about this.
Grand solar minimum. A few thousand people knew what this meant 2 decades ago. Millions do today. However, what is lacking is the understanding of our progress and the implications of what is to come. This is the current grand solar cycle, grand minimum up through grand maximum the second half of the 1900s. Our most recent solar cycle is in red at the right side, and we are indeed due for a significant drop in activity this century. I'll skip over the enormous amount of evidence that things like the Mayan Baktun of nearly 400 years is about the sun, and just go to modern science, where indeed we find in numerous reconstructions and simulations the grand minima come approximately 400 years apart. The best analysis of the last 11,000 years notes 27 grand minima at an average interval of 407 years. 400 years ago, there were only about 1 or 2 11-year sunspot cycles to go before the fall. The big question, of course, is what is going to happen in the next few years, the next few solar cycles. We are currently down at the low point of sunspot minimum. The sun has been exceptionally quiet, not only...
If we go back there, I mean, look at that. You can obviously quite see the trend here, you know?
Yeah, that curve is on its way down.
Yep, it's not hard to project where that thing's going.
Yep.
Spot minimum. The sun has been exceptionally quiet, not only by comparison to...
And that's a brilliant visual difference of...
It is a very, very brilliant
Isn't
visual.
it? Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly the same star, and you got the maximum on the left, and where we are around about now, just in this minimum period. And again, folks, we're not saying it's definitely a grand solar minimum, because I don't think anyone could ever really know that.
I don't think you can. No. And to be quite honest, if you look at the cycle map prior to the minimum of the 1650s, the 1600s, it looks just like we are now, kind of trending downward, and then it just stopped and it was flatlined for a good 50 years.
Yep.
Sunspot
really
maximum a little over half a decade ago, but this entire cycle has been weak compared to what we've seen in the last few cycles. In terms of solar flares, and you'll see this in the 2 right columns, we don't necessarily expect an X20 every sunspot cycle, but we expect about 8 X10s. We had none this cycle. We expect 175 X flares total, and we are way short of half. In terms of proton radiation storms from the solar explosions, we expect 3 level 4 radiation storms, but haven't had any this cycle, and again are about halfway on the level 3 storms. In terms of geomagnetic storms, those are the storms to Earth's magnetosphere, it's an even weaker show. We expect about 4 KP9 solar storms every cycle, the highest level, and we've had none this cycle. We expect 100 KP8 storms, and we haven't had 10. We haven't had 50 level 3 storms, and we expect 200. The real kicker's here, on top of the perfect timing around 400.
I mean, that there, before we listen to what he's got to say there, I mean, when you look at that, I mean, the Maunder minimum, we've spoke about that before on the show. There's another period as well. It's called the Dalton minimum. But if we go back here, I mean, it's quite profound how you see the patterns, right? And again, nobody knows how long these cycles are. I get that. So it could just as easily start to pick up again. I totally appreciate that. But I don't know, guys. I don't know.
Say every 407 years or so,
yeah, we'll listen,
on average.
Yeah, we'll listen to what he's got to say there. I'll put it back to there.
The real kicker's here, on top of the perfect timing around 400 years, and a sharp drop in activity during the maximum of this most recent cycle 24, the one about to end. Was that about a decade ago? The minimum from 2005 to 2009 was exceptionally low and lasted more than a year longer than expected. And the cherry on top was actually written much longer ago. The Maunder's greatest work, The Heavens and Their Story, not only details the sun and earth, but the planets too. And on page 192, they hypothesized that the earth kills sunspots. Now, they were looking at a period in time more associated with grand minimum than what we are used to these days, and indeed that earth-facing quiet or earth-killing sunspots was not showing up until November 2011, not since the Maunder minimum period. The same thing the Maunders noticed and described as the earth-killing sunspots is what we have modernly named the earth-facing solar quiet. So right now we are undoubtedly in the silent streak of sunspot minimum, but where are we in terms of the longer scale grand cycle? Is the grand minimum upon us? With more than 99% certainty, we can say that we are not quite there yet. And just like 400 years ago, we have at least one more sunspot maximum to go. Probably not long thereafter, but the signs we look for to forecast solar activity are a three-pronged sweep in favor of no grand minimum just yet. First, the late cycle flaring has been strongly tied to the strength of the next cycle, and while the cycle itself was weak here this last round, the strongest flare of it occurred in 2017, 3 years after sunspots began decreasing. This is strongly indicative of the occurrence of more X-class flare activity in the forthcoming solar cycle, and that requires a good deal of sunspot energy and magnetism, more than a grand minimum is likely to offer. Up next is the solar polar fields. Now, if you are new to this, the polar fields peak in strength opposite of sunspots, and the strength of the polar fields indicate the strength of the upcoming sunspot cycle. Right now, we are almost halfway through the polar max cycle on the right, and while another weak cycle is indicated by the polar field strength, it does not indicate a collapse of the energy needed to make sunspots. And then number 3 would be the somewhat mysterious, but holding 2/3 of the time, odd-even rule or even odd rule, and it is worth mentioning. There is an oscillating strength pattern where odd cycles are usually stronger than the previous even-numbered cycle. Not that even or odd matters, it's just how the oscillation fell in the numbering.
So we'll stop it there, right? Because the big takeaway is it's coming, but in Ben Davidson's Suspicious Observer's estimations, or guesstimations, because that's probably a better way of describing it, not quite yet, probably another cycle away. And I suppose that would take us into the ballpark period where Max Egan was talking about as well. You've got that Piers Corbyn bloke as well. See Piers Corbyn, the brother of the Labour leader, Jeremy Corbyn. He's got Weather Action, and he talks about the grand solar minimums as well.
And it needs to be talked about because that's really what's at play here. I think it's that affects the magnetic field, that affects the weather, that affects everything. And I'm sure it's something that is outside of the solar system that affects the sun and causes it to do what it does. You know what I mean? So it's just a really, really interesting symbiosis at work, but in reality, very akin, and the behavior is very akin to the quantum particles and how they behave. And that is unbelievable. And, you know, looking at that, we also have, since I'm talking quantum, I've got a couple of things here, but I want to talk about this here quantum space time on a quantum simulator.
Well, Joe, I probably best go into Electroverse first.
Hold on, I'm trying to find it. Where is this?
Because that's the one that deals with the coming pole shift and the professor's study on the grand solar minimum. Here you go.
There we go. Okay, I got it. Yep. So it says Professor Valentia Zakova gave a presentation of her climate and the solar magnetic field hypothesis at the Global Warming Policy Foundation in October 2018. Zarkova models solar sunspot and magnetic activity. Her model has run at a 93% accuracy rate, and her findings suggest a super grand solar minimum could begin in 2020. A super grand solar minimum would have 4 magnetic fields out of phase. There was about 40 to 60 years of cold weather 350 years ago. This was a Maunder minimum of low solar activity. The historical cold weather had 2 magnetic fields out of phase. Zarkova is predicting a cooling effect that is 2.5 to 4 times larger than the Maunder minimum.
That's pretty key. That's significant.
Are you kidding? That's unbelievable. So just imagine that. Let's just go halfway. Let's say 3.
And remember, folks, whether you believe this or not, we're told the science is settled. I don't remember anyone coming out and explaining how things like this weren't going to happen. We're just being told. I don't think
something like this is ever going to see the light of day as far as media coverage until it's right on top of us.
But doesn't that fit in, like Max Egan was saying, underground bases? It's almost like the urgency that you see, like what's coming. Yeah, they know.
They know it's coming. They just don't know when.
Yep.
They don't know what cycle it's going to be. That's why they put up all the satellites watching the sun, all this kind of stuff. They're trying to get as many clues as possible to figure out when that is. You know, it goes on to say, Zarkova's analysis shows an 8 watts per square meter decrease in total solar irradiance. A 2015 Nature study looked at 2 watts per square meter decrease, causing a 0.13 degrees Celsius effect. A 4 times larger effect would be 0.5 degrees Celsius. Zarkova believes the warming models are including the warming effect of increased solar activity. If she's correct, there would be cooling and the warming models would be wrong. Now, it gives some different charts, and it's very interesting how they all kind of tell basically the same story. And that is that the sun is quieting and the earth and its climate is going to experience some pretty significant changes. You know, it says here, numerous studies have identified links between past climate and solar variability. During the Maunder minimum, very few sunspots were seen despite regular observations. If the past relationship between total solar irradiance and ultraviolet irradiance and sunspots are the same as are observed for modern solar variability, then a decline in both TSI and ultraviolet for this period can be assumed. The Maunder minimum coincided with more severe winters in the UK and continental Europe, and many reconstructions suggest atmospheric conditions were broadly comparable with the regional effects on European atmospheric circulation. Some modeling suggests studies also support the idea that similar regional cooling and circulation changes occurred during that period as well. So there is just a general consensus that it's here or upon us in a very short period of time. And they're just trying to figure out when that is. And then I just wonder behind the scenes how much is actually going on and how much this is discussed. Because like I say, I don't think that they're going to start putting out there that that this kind of thing is upon us or, even coming down the pipe. It's just it's one of those things that, it's the truth, so they're not going to report it.
Yeah, I mean, and they have that mindset of, oh well, you don't want to panic the public,
Or
right?
something.
That's usually their.
We'll just build our caves and everything will be fine.
Yeah, and so, well, they're gonna come out and be like, well, everybody, we're about to enter an ice age.
Yeah, right.
Sorry to break the news to you guys, but
put a traffic cone by your designated cave, sir.
Of course, they're broadcasting live from, CNN's headquarters, now down in the center of the earth.
Do you think this is the way it is going to go, though? Because I must admit, when I was talking about it the other night, Max today, starting to look at it, doesn't mean it means anything. However, see that gut feeling you get? See that kind of, I don't know, there's just, I don't know.
What if instead of that, it ends up being like the maximum of all maximums and just cooks us alive?
You see, this is the thing, that we've got problems, right? You've got all these people who desperately do want to do something to save the planet, and all that energy's been misguided and misdirected. That angers me as much as as I like to laugh at the ridiculous protests they get up to. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, well, because their heart is in the right spot.
Yeah, exactly. And we do have problems that do need addressing.
That resources and the energy is being misdirected.
Yeah.
Yeah, but that comes with the territory, because they're trying to save themselves or save their group. And I just don't see us in the cards there. So they're just going to keep it quiet and let these people distract, and their wackadoodle behavior is going to piss people off, and then you're going to have the extreme other side that has to respond to that, because it's just
many sane people are left in the world. Do you really think many real sane people?
But what is it?
People that aren't trying to arrest broccoli in the middle of the street.
Yeah, I know, but at this point, what is sane? You question reality. You question everything now. Heck, they can make fake anything at any time. Who knows? So I guess to answer your question, I don't know who is. What's real?
I think about 500 million springs to mind, Scott.
About that, yeah, probably.
That's what I was getting at, Joe. Come on, man. I tried to feed you in there, man. I gave you an easy one. I thought you'd have felt inspired by the stones below you, dude. Come on.
Yeah.
No, I mean, I've been thinking for a while, for quite a few years, that we're heading into a mini ice age. If anything was to happen, that's the direction that we'd be heading into, and that would be directed by, solar activity, or a lack thereof of solar activity, right? Heading into a minimum. I think that's the more realistic scenario. I think that is really where we're headed. And right, I mean, it's how many more cycles, like of these smaller cycles, these smaller minimums and maximums are we going to have to go through before the big minimum hits? I don't know, but I think we're there. I think we're at that point. We're definitely in that time frame, that window of time where we're going to start slipping into that. And so it's going to be interesting to see, even if we do go through one more cycle of a maximum, that maximum is going to be pretty weak if you look at that chart. Right.
Well, what this says is we're already seeing an increase in unstable weather patterns as the weather solar cycle in over 100 years, the weakest solar cycle in over 100 years, solar cycle 24, continues to weaken the jet stream, reverting its usual zone or tight flow to more of a meridional or wavy flow. Major flooding, snowstorms, anonymous cold, and burst of unseasonable heat are all contributing to one of the poorest growing years on record for farmers around the globe. It even goes on to say an uptick in high levels of volcanic eruptions is also associated with low solar activity. Increasing cosmic rays are believed to heat the muons in subsurface silica-rich magma. And larger eruptions, one that fire volcanic ash above 32,800 feet or 10 kilometers into the stratosphere, have a direct cooling effect on the planet, as these ejected particles effectively block out the sun.
That's kind of weird, isn't it? You got the increased cosmic rays coming in, so they heat
Yep.
up the muons. That
That's
causes the volcanic eruption, which then puts stuff into the atmosphere that then blocks out the cosmic rays.
Isn't it crazy? It's like
that can only happen
real.
in a simulation.
That's true. It says an influx
Just
of cosmic
random.
rays caused by the decrease in deflecting solar winds also nucleate more clouds, and these play a major role in Earth's climate. Clouds are the Earth's sunshades, and if cloud cover changes for any reason, you have global warming or global cooling.
Wait a minute,
So
wait a
we'll-
minute, wait a minute. So if cloud cover changes for any reason, as in like artificial clouds and chemtrails, you could have global warming effects or cooling. Just
Mhm.
saying, just saying.
Yeah.
That is interesting. Nice point, Mr. Baker. Says here, unfortunately, these things only expected to get worse until 2055 at least, with now NASA joining in.
Oh, well, people are going to glaze over now if NASA have got on board.
Well, so they say that solar cycle 25 is going to be the weakest in over 200 years, continuing the solar shutdown. Says here, the agency is effectively forecasting a return to the Dalton minimum. And it was during that period that you had brutal cold, crop loss, famine, war, powerful volcanic eruptions, just stuff like that.
And that was 1790 until 1830, Scotty.
Mm-hmm.
The good old days, right? The good old days when we have war and famine.
It says here in 1816, says here the year 1816 went to earn the name 1800 and froze to death. Wow.
Mm.
Yeah. But the cold times, they're coming back.
Isn't that when the crops started failing, like the potato famine and all that stuff? And
Yep.
You have global cooling and you have crop failures. You're going to have a lot of you're going to have a lot of interesting social issues that arise from all of that.
Scotland's already teetering on the edge because they hardly get any sun anyway.
Exactly. If we see that here, it's like a spate of UFO sightings going to the local police.
That's what I'm saying.
We
So
have to be
if that
reminded.
happens, and then you end up having this on top of it, oh man.
Dude, I'm telling you. But can I give a shout out to this website as well? Electroverse.net.
Great.
Yeah, it's quite interesting. I looked at some of their other articles as well. Seems
Yep,
just
they
like
do.
an ordinary person blogging away by the looks of it.
Yep. Very, very good indeed. Which brings us to our next piece here. I think I brought this up. Where is it? Yes, science alert. There's more to consider than the habitable zone when searching for a livable planet.
So you've gone straight from possible potential apocalyptic like disaster to now we're going to talk about potential homes away from Earth. That's
The
encouraging.
lifeboat.
So I don't really need to ask where you're coming down on the whole Maunder minimum type of event, Joe. You're thinking we need out of here.
So there's been a big focus here, especially with all the observatories and the space telescopes that they've put up there.
Well, the Nobel Prizes for physics this year, one of them was to do with the search for exoplanets as well.
Yeah, because of what they've figured out. Now, let me ask you this. Look at that picture. How do they, first of all, identify this? This is just artist representation, and this is why people get so pissed. Is that they say, okay, look, we've just found 3 planets within the habitable zone of this star that would dot all the I's and cross all the T's as far as what we consider.
I get that, dude. I get that, right? I get that.
And then
but
they show this picture of a planet.
I know, but I get that. But you've got to appreciate at the same time, away from the artist's rendition, okay? You've got these radio telescopes. You've got all these other ones, the infrared ones, everything else. This James Webb one that's going to totally revolutionize things 10 times more than Hubble ever did. But what they're seeing is like a star, a local star, and the light from that passing through the atmosphere of one of these objects. And they're inferring from the data what kind of atmosphere they've got and what kind of composition it must be made up of, etc., etc. And I get it. I get it. But there is real science there that
No. I'm not saying there isn't. I guess and that's not even the problem. The problem is they show this artist's rendition of a planet that really is no picture at all of
we
what
don't know.
it is the article describes.
Exactly, dude. I know.
And
I know.
it's just
You know, the
bad
best example of that was Oumuamua. Remember that big asteroid that they said could be a probe? And we've all got that image in our mind, that big cigar-shaped thing, the rock. And yet you look into it deeper and they say it probably looked nothing like that. No, in fact, it definitely looked nothing like that because that was one dude's interpretation of what he was told.
It's just unbelievable how they do that. And it's all it's all to generate clicks. That's all it's about. It truly is. And that's no different. If they actually went up there and they showed you what they saw, first of all, they don't see anything.
Exactly.
They're just interpreting numbers on a screen and then figuring it out from there because it's the computer, it's the algorithm that figured out.
Scotty, what do you reckon, though, man? Do you reckon there's one out there, at least one out there that's a little blue marble like our own?
Oh, definitely. I mean, I think the mathematical probability, pretty much states that there are probably multiple planets that are very similar to our own as far as atmospheric composition and stuff. But here's the thing, whenever they find these planets within the habitable zone and they go, well, based off of the light passing through the atmosphere, we can gather that, it's probably a habitable planet. But really, I mean, is it? All it takes is a very, very, very small percentage in the composition of the atmosphere to make it not habitable.
Exactly, Scott. Think of it the other way. One of these planets looking at maybe Mercury, they might go, oh, look, there's something, roughly in the Goldilocks zone, looks not too bad. But because they're like a bajillion light years away, they're never going to know really that it's only inhabitable by I don't know.
It would be like if a civilization much like ours was looking at our sun and they saw the Earth, they saw Mars, and they saw Venus, they would probably all say that maybe those were all potential habitable planets, right? Well, we know Venus isn't, and currently Mars really isn't. You can't just step off a ship and just take a nice deep breath on the surface of Mars and be like, yeah, we're just gonna live here, right? It's gonna take some terraforming to make Mars habitable. So I think just kind of basing it off of whatever the light refraction from the atmosphere of these planets are
to stretch
and then go. And then they're like, hey, it's a habitable planet, a possible habitable planet. It's like Earth.
Justify their salary. It's kind of the way I look at it. But
I'm not poo-pooing it. I'm not poo-pooing it either. I'm not poo-pooing it either because I definitely think that there are planets out there.
I think it's much more boring than it is than they think. Than people are. Well,
they have to find a way to engage people, right, Joe? I mean, it's much more sexy to put out an artist rendition of a planet that looks like a nice blue marble that looks like the Earth than to throw up a picture of like a couple of pixels, a grainy pixelated image,
big
and be like, that's a
spreadsheet of numbers.
Planet, and you're like what the hell is that? It looks like a mosaic covering some criminal's face or something.
It's when it passes in front of its star. So even then, I mean, it is literal like a sunspot on a grain of sand, like a spot on a grain of sand.
Yeah.
Oh, it's crazy.
Exactly.
Yeah.
When you start thinking about the size, the distances in the universe and the size of the stars, I mean, our star is actually, it's pretty, it's poor. It wouldn't stand up long in a fight if there was a big star fight. Not long at all. In fact, it wouldn't be a fair fight with any kind of star, would it?
Yeah, actually, our star, our sun, our solar system is kind of an anomaly in a way because most star systems are binary systems, and we happen to be just like one of the few that are not really a binary system. So that's kind of interesting. We're
There's
unique in
So
that
it does
aspect.
that same thing that takes it from the smallest on the way to the biggest that they've seen. I
What-
do know that, Kevin.
what's
It's a
that?
pretty. There's a video out there
Yeah.
that just takes it from smallest to large. It'd be good to give people that visual because it's a very powerful visual too. Just so people see that our sun is really puny in nature.
Hey guys, look. I was about to say, well, we can watch this first, but I found some habitable planets myself, and I've taken pictures of them. I'll drop a few in the sky.
Scotland is so. There's our moon, Mercury. This is cool. I like this.
Yeah, this is really cool, actually.
There we are, folks. Look at us. Woo! Woo! Whoa! Whoa!
Yeah.
Oh,
Mm.
oh.
Oh, dang. Dang, diggy, dang, dang. I mean, look, our star is something to behold.
So-
Look at that.
Bam.
Bada bing, bada boom.
Then this is where it starts getting ridiculous.
Yeah, this is where it gets super ridiculous.
Here you say,
Yeah.
Look at that. Yeah.
oh.
Nah, yippity doo.
Yeah.
Can we even see it? Oh, we just see ours. Now we're gone.
Oh, it's gone.
Look at this bad boy coming up. Look at that.
Bam.
A blue hyper giant.
What the heck is that? A red supergiant, and then a red.
We're not
redder-
even like an atom compared to these things, right?
Yeah.
The largest known
the
star.
Canis Majoris.
That one, I believe they say it takes it takes 2 years for light.
Look at the size of the Earth.
It takes 2 years for light to travel around the circumference of that star.
Holy moly!
Think of a passenger airline flying along the
Believe.
surface at 900 kilometers per hour. It would take 1,100 years to circle at one time.
Wow.
Yeah, so that gives you a kind of... It doesn't give you any idea, actually, because there's no way that our minds can conceptualize and work at that level.
No, but think about that. So, how long would it take a passenger jetliner to circle the Earth if it was just going nonstop? So, it would take it 1,100 years to get around Canis Majoris, right? But let's see.
So it says here, on April the 6th, 1924, 8 U.S. Army Air Service pilots and mechanics and 4 airplanes left Seattle, Washington, to carry out the first circumnavigation of the globe by air. They completed the journey 175 days later, after making 74 stops.
Yeah, so that's if you're stopping, and that was a 1920s technology,
Yeah.
right? So they're about 200 miles an hour. I would probably say it would take what? Maybe a day or two. So if it's 20, well, you could do the math, right? So
I reckon,
use that.
I reckon about 2 days. Yeah, about what? And how do you work out if it's 2 days when you're crossing date lines?
Yeah, I would say 2 days.
Yeah,
I would
probably 2 days.
Yeah.
2 days, yeah.
So
No.
1,100 years
Not 1,100 years.
and 2 days.
Yeah.
Wow, that's a big difference. So put that in perspective, right? That's a pretty damn big star, dude.
Yeah. That's the kind of thing you could toast your marshmallows on.
Good grief.
Yeah.
So what's next?
There we
What's
go.
next?
NASA needs to hire me. I found him. We have our habitable planets.
There we go. See, that's a
Oh, hang on.
habitable planet. However, where did that come from? And what habitable planet? Where did you find it, Scott? Is that
Well,
what part of the universe did you find it?
well, I envisioned it, and
You
so
did?
I manifested the planet.
I've seen that picture before.
Yes, I fired up Photoshop.
No.
and
I've seen that exact picture before. Do you know where?
Where?
Page 542. The enamel tablets of tooth.
Oh, okay. Yes.
There it is. That's it. The great.
It was foretold. It was
planet.
foretold in prophecy, wasn't it?
It is the great habitable planet with a ring around it.
That's pretty cool, though. That's Space Engine, isn't it, Scott?
Actually, the first one, with the ring, that was all done in Photoshop. I did that. I did that in Photoshop just from the ground up. Actually, the nebula in the background I rendered in Apophysis, which is a fractal program. But I did the planet and everything in Photoshop. The second picture, though, the one that's up there now, that's Space Engine. I've rendered that one in Space Engine.
And yes, Lothar. Lothar, I blame it all on the Freemasons as well. When you look at anything Apollo done in space, highly Masonic rituals. Buzz Aldrin with his little apron when they went up and maybe landed on the moon. You better believe it, Lothar. You see, I don't totally throw the Freemasonic stuff out there. Not all the time. No. Not at all. There you go. Yes. So what ludicrous stories have we got now to take us out with a little smile on our face, boys? What craziness is going on in the world? Is Joe frozen or is... No, I seen him blinking there. Wow. Joe, you looked like Ange had maybe put like liquid nitrogen on you there or something, dude.
Yeah, no.
Either that or like a battalion of traffic cones that surrounded your house or something.
Perhaps. You never know. You really never know.
I need to play with that new traffic cone.
Like the world is erupting in protest. It's kind of interesting.
It's kind of kicking up. It's kicking up again. The old social unrest thing is kind of kicking up again.
Okay. Let me ask you then. Does that in any way tie in to cosmic waves and the magnetics on the planet?
I think so. We were talking about this, how people were feeling off, right? And they kind of feeling agitated and they're feeling like something isn't right. I honestly think a lot of these waves of like social unrest and just, like these kind of global explosions and just basically people getting pissed off, it's triggered by some of this, that there was already like
as far as
and then you add on top of that the social engineering and then them wanting to, like.
But are you saying like full moon fever? Only instead of full moon, it is like solar minimum fever.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I'm. Or even magnetic drifting fever. Like the whole the magnetic poles starting to drift and get kind of weird, and it's having an effect on people. Yes, exactly.
You think
muon madness?
Muon madness. I like that. Yep, I do.
Yeah.
Yep. It causes a shift in your up quarks.
See,
I think that's what it does, boys. On a quantum level, we're affected.
Yeah.
Good story in the chat room there, Joe. That might be a good one to take us out, Joe. I don't know.
What's
that might be a good story at the end there, after we've gone through this part with the protests.
Here,
I've just dropped it in there. Gone to your favourite publication. Don't scream out loud when you see the headline and things. Don't give it away just yet. You don't see it, Joe? You got it?
Wow.
Oh,
I got it.
You got it? Wow.
Yes, I got it already.
Yes, indeedy. Nice.
Oh, well, there you have it.
So what protests? What other? We've got the whole. Can we even say? Can we say Hong Kong, or will we get like thrown in a jail somewhere for talking out against the Chi-Coms?
It's not just Hong Kong. Protests, they say. This, according to the National .ae, says protests have broken out in several countries across the world with citizens unhappy for different reasons. Some are protesting over economic conditions, other over tax hikes, and elsewhere protests are breaking out over controversial laws or prison sentences imposed by governments. Or over here in America, we're protesting for menstruation equality.
Somebody in the chat room asked if you were actually shifting your man pawn earlier? They said they thought,
Yeah, you know, we can do that because
Was
you
it
know
not sitting right, Joe?
there shouldn't be. You know, it ends up being a gender equality issue.
Well, I made Dan get me lots of chocolate today because chocolate helps me around this time of the month.
Yeah,
So if I get a little bit narky towards the end of the show, boys, you have to cut me some slack, right?
I will. I do. It
Yeah.
says here. Here's some of the latest countries affected by the civil unrest. Chile. Now you wouldn't expect that because you don't normally hear Chile in the news, but they have declared a state of emergency in Santiago on Friday night and gave the military responsibility for security after a day of violent protests over the increase in the price of metro tickets. Listen to this. I've declared a state of emergency, and to that end, I've appointed Major General Javier Iturraga del Campo as head of national defense in accordance with the provisions of our state of emergency legislation, said President Pinera. Throughout Friday, protesters clashed with riot police in several parts of the city, and the subway system was shut after attacks on several stations. Violent clashes escalated as night fell, and the ENEL Power Company building and the Banco Chile branch, both in the city center, were set on fire, and several metro stations hit with Molotov cocktails. The unrest started as a fare-dodging protest against the hike in metro tickets, which increased from 800 to 830 pesos, or $1.17 for peak hour travel, following a 20 peso rise in January. Attacks on metro stations forced the closure of the entire subway system, which is the key form of public transport in the congested and polluted capital, carrying 3 million passengers a day. The entire network is closed to riots due to riots and destruction that prevent the minimum security conditions for passengers and workers. This is saying that after attacks against nearly all the 164 stations where many gates and turnstiles were destroyed. It says here the Santiago Metro is at 90 miles or 140 kilometers, the largest and most modern in South America, and is expected to remain closed this weekend and could reopen gradually next week. So just think about that. They raised this is just to put things in perspective a little bit. They raised the rate from $1.13 to $1.17, 4 cents. But what you don't realize is they make a lot less down there. So a rate hike like that is difficult on top of everything else. And people have had enough. And it looks like they're having enough in a lot of different countries. Of course, you've got Hong Kong. I'm not going to get into that because Hong Kong, Scott, I mean, if you want to add anything, you can, but we know what's going on there.
Well, I was gonna say, I mean, we're just seeing this increased activity all around the globe, right? So
sure.
we have this stuff going on in Chile. I've noticed that there's like riots and protests going on. I believe in maybe Honduras or Ecuador, one of those countries, Central American countries.
It's Ecuador.
It's Ecuador. Then all of this stuff is kind of sparking back up in Catalan. The Catalonia thing is kicking off again. I saw the other day that there was a lot of protests going on in Beirut. Then, of course, we have the Hong Kong thing going on. We have a lot of this stuff going on in the UK right now. I mean, you know, with this extinction revolution stuff and just all your general protests going on there. And you know, then you're just sort of sporadic mobs and protests that go on here in the U.S. as well. I mean, it's a global thing. You know, there's a lot of people that are pissed about various different issues and angry about various different things. And I think a lot of that has to do also with the fact that, hey, you know, we're in a nice globalized world right now. And a lot of the policies that are making people angry are implemented globally, right? So you're going to see a lot of unrest and a lot of people getting angry about things just in general across the entire planet because everything is interconnected now.
Absolutely.
All these economies are connected. this globalization, it's not just confined to one country anymore. It has these ripple effects that affect everybody across the planet.
No, and also the socialism is being a factor too. All these countries that are going through this have socialism in one way, shape, or form that really, although well intentioned, has been just totally and completely destroyed by corruption. And then the fact that you have to have people paying into the system in order to keep the system afloat. And now you have more people retiring than ever before and not enough people paying in. And this is all over the globe. So these systems are collapsing.
Yep.
Exactly.
I still think there's something bigger going on as well. It'd be interesting if you looked at like when other empires have collapsed. I mean, we've seen the kind of the turn towards kind of like the moral standards dropping, things like that. But I wonder if, I know I keep going back to it, but it's just because it's on my mind and it keeps coming up. But if there was something solar going on as well at the same time,
could be.
Whether these cycles are all influencing one another. I don't know. Again, it could be absolutely nothing. It could be because it's just come up a couple of times, but
I'm sure that there's many.
I think there's something to it. Yeah, exactly, Joe. Exactly. I think this isn't just a one.
And they know it, Scott. That's why they know it. They know this is a good time to get something done, and that's why they're mobilizing so many protests and things.
No, I agree with you. It says here in Lebanon, security forces fired tear gas and chased down protesters in Beirut on Friday after tens of thousands of people across Lebanon marched to demand the demise of a political elite they accuse of looting the economy to the point of collapse. There you go. Riot police in vehicles and on foot rounded up protesters, according to Reuters witnesses. They fired rubber bullets and tear gas canisters, dispersing demonstrators in Beirut's commercial district. Dozens of people were wounded and detained. Prime Minister Saeed al-Hariri blamed his partners in government for obstructing reforms that could ward off economic crisis and gave them a 72-hour deadline to stop blocking him, otherwise hinting he may resign. Mr. Hariri, addressing protesters, said Lebanon was going through an unprecedented difficult time. Lebanese from all sects and walks of life had come out onto the streets, waving banners and chanting slogans, urging Mr. Hariri's government to go. The rallies followed warnings by economists and investors that Lebanon's economy and graft-riddled financial systems are closer to the brink than at any time since the war-torn 1980s. There are those who have placed obstacles in front of me, Mr. Hariri said, and in the face of all the efforts that I have proposed for reform, whatever the solution, we no longer have time, and I'm personally giving myself only a little time. Either our partners in government and the nation and in the nation give a frank response to the solution, or I will have another say. The deadline left is very short. It's 72 hours. Protesters poured through villages and towns, as well as the capital, Beirut, for a second day. No political leader, Muslim or Christian, was spared their wrath. Their chants called for leaders, including Mr. Hariri, President Michael Aoun, and Parliament Speaker Nabi Berri to step down. And then, of course, we have, like you said, Barcelona. Catalan separatists are starting to, protest again. And by the way, Catalonia has been trying to get independence from Spain for 400 years. It's been a long, long time, and this stuff has always gone on. Always gone on.
You had Kev, you had David Reventos on your show, didn't you?
Oh,
before?
yeah, dude. Yeah. He's very active in the whole Catalonian independence.
I just thought I would point out that he currently is on his 18th day of a hunger strike.
Wow.
Oh, yeah. For his support of Catalonian independence and what's going on right there right now. So I thought I'd point that out.
There's a lot of solidarity between the Caledonian movement and the independence in Scotland movement as well. You always see the flags. There's always, a crossing. Yeah. So that's a shame to hear, man. Very, very nice guy. Very passionate dude. I remember that when he was on the show. Very, very.
He's very turned on to a lot of the things that we talk about. You know, I mean, he understands
Oh yeah.
the agenda and everything. So yeah. So shout out to David Reventos. That takes some cojones to go that long on a hunger strike. You know,
It's one thing
so,
virtue signaling and posting and liking things on Twitter, but it's another thing, you know, doing the walk. Big time. Big time.
Yeah.
So yeah, so guys, we've got not too long left, but you know how like we usually go into paranormal stories, or I've got this habit of like triggering people, and it's been a great show so far today. I mean, we've had the whole kind of backstory or additional information on the conspiracy that was far more vast, Scott, than we ever imagined, right?
telling you, the traffic cone is like some kind of holy relic to you guys.
Maybe that's what's in at Oak Island. Imagine they get down there and it's like some kind of like traffic cone, a golden traffic cone.
an ancient traffic cone, like the first traffic cone.
It's like Moses actually got the commandments delivered on a traffic cone. Come on, Joe, dispute it, man. You were there at the time.
I could, yeah.
Is that the secret? Is that like what the Freemasons aren't allowed to tell anyone? Lothar, now we've sussed it, brother. Now we've sussed it. But tell you what,
that's only part of it. But you know that has to be a major, important aspect of Freemasonry.
well, I want to know, I'm quite keen. In fact, I'm eager to see how Lothar takes the next headline and spins it into everything as a Masonic conspiracy.
Oh boy!
Because we started to get there. We got a little bite from the audience. We got a reaction. I like to test the water, and the mention of the man pond, it got people going. It re-energized something from the other day. And there's some headlines that just make you go, not woo, but what the?
What the heck?
This is one such headline. Are we ready? Trigger time. Trigger time. Transphobic porn star refused. Wait a minute. Ba-da-ba-ba-dow. Transphobic porn star refused sex with model because she had a manly bit. Yes, indeed. So, in the world of Idiocracy 2.0, a transgender woman says she is the victim of a transphobic discrimination after being snubbed for a job as a female porn star because she still has a male penis. Now, let me just stop right there. In what kind of world does this even compute as being a problem, let alone some kind of form of transphobic discrimination? We're living in some kind of ludicrous, broken version of the simulation because
It's like it's breaking down.
I think it's quite self-explanatory when you're looking for a female porn star. I think it's kind of given what equipment you're looking for, right? But you've got like specific roles in the porn industry, Scott. You know?
Yeah. Newsflash. There is an entire genre of pornography that is completely dedicated to this person.
You see, not happy, Joe, until they absolutely eradicate everything and turn it into this strange wonderland where men can enjoy the delights of periods and somebody with a man's bit gets pissed off because he can't get the job of a female porn star. So it says Rhea Cooper, nice and kind of gender fluid there, 25, who became Britain's youngest trans person when she transitioned. Oh, was that another member? It might have just been a renewal. It might have been. I'll need to check. So yeah, trans person, when she transitioned 10 years ago, encountered the photographer after deciding to embark on a career in the sex industry. Now, she says the anonymous individual messaged her saying he wanted to have sex on camera, then sell the resulting porno to make some quick cash. But little did he know Rhea was transgender, and when he found out she still has male reproductive organs, he immediately retracted the offer. Now, this is one of these moral situations, isn't it? What's the right thing to do here? This guy done nothing wrong. Nothing wrong. And said in messages exchanged over WhatsApp, the photographer bluntly proclaimed he couldn't work with her because she has meat and 2 veg. Yes, indeed. Biologically, still a dude. So it said, yeah, we've got that there. Ria has hit out at the transphobic behaviour and says she's been unfairly discriminated against in her pursuit of a modelling career. Well, no, because it's not unfair discrimination. She responded to an ad that she wasn't qualified for. It's like going for a job as a doctor.
Yeah.
Do you know what I'm saying, though? Like the ad's looking for one thing and you knowingly go there.
And I guess she filed charges with the police.
And you know that they're going to be like, they've probably got a case to make here, don't you? The woman from Hull, East Yorks, has reported the comments to Humberside Police, which is investigating the incident as a hate crime. So hang on a minute, right? There's no way this can be a hate crime. I'm sorry, guys. There can be no. He is not in the wrong. Oh. She has knowingly put this guy in a situation. It's almost like she wanted this to happen, and this is I don't get it. Says he apparently told her, Ria got in touch with him over her WhatsApp after she realised or released her new glamour modelling portfolio online. He apparently told the industry, told her the industry was like a family and vowed to help her make her way to the top of it. Then the photographer told Ria he had just been informed that by a friend that she is transgender before saying Playboy won't accept that. So you see there, they're getting on fine.
Who goes after that? Who purchases or who's their clientele?
And there's ads out there for that. I mean, like Scott said, there is a genre. There's a market for this. It's not like there's no transgender people getting hired for transgender roles.
Right. So basically, you're trying to force it down people's throat. That's what it is, and it doesn't work that way.
Ria has described the comments as discriminatory and appalling, comparing the abuse to that of a racist. No.
It's not at all.
She is speaking out about the abuse because she wants to help other transgender people suffering abuse. The fully qualified beauty therapist said, when I first changed, I found it really scary and very confusing. And I'm not making fun of that. I imagine it must absolutely be terrifying. Not taking anything away from this, but going to an ad that was asking for a woman in the porn industry, I don't know. I had no one to lean on for support. It was such a massive change. But now I'm comfortable and confident in my own skin, and I wanted to help others. The Humberside Police has confirmed officers are currently investigating the allegation. We received a report of a hate incident yesterday, October 16th, and the report has been logged and will be investigated. Yes.
Wow, it's kind of funny you say that because some stuff is happening even over in the UK. You guys got protests going on. Let me send this to you here, Kevin. This is pretty interesting. In the same genre, I guess you could say, of people getting pissed off, the popular U.S. fast food chain Chick-fil-A recently just opened up a new store just days ago, and they're already going to shut it down, they say, in 6 months. Just after the popular American fast food chain made its debut in the country amid pressures from gay rights activists protesting the chain for contributing millions of dollars to anti-LGBTQ groups. Protests swarmed the Oracle Shopping Center on Saturday, holding a sign saying, "Get the chick out, say no to bigotry and hatred on your high street." The store opened its pilot location on October 10th. 9 days ago in Reading, which is about an hour and a half drive from London. A mall spokesman said concerns raised by activists about the chain had made them determine the right thing to do is not to extend the restaurant's lease beyond the 6-month pilot period.
Wow. So all the social justice warriors and all of that, they ruined it for the UK. Kev, you guys are never going to have the glory that is Chick-fil-A. Shame.
I'm going to bite my tongue.
like
I'm
us
going to
that
bite
don't
my
have
tongue. I'm not going to say anything I might regret or need to say later in a court of hate crime kind of proceedings.
Yeah, you can tell us after the broadcast.
I might actually chew on the traffic cone in a minute. Yes,
Okay.
folks, Honey Badger is our latest member to the channel. We need 3 new members. Come on, folks. We can unlock our new emoji by
It says
tomorrow.
here,
Our hairy
Chick-fil-A
hands.
defended the donations, saying they were intended to help with economic mobility of young people by focusing on homelessness and poverty, education and community revitalization, and is done with no political or social agenda. Kathy is openly said that America is inviting God's judgment on our nation when we shake our fists at him and say we know better than you as to what constitutes a marriage in a 2012 radio interview. He continued, he said, I pray God's mercy on our generation that has such a prideful, arrogant attitude that thinks we have the audacity to redefine what marriage is all about. Kathy later doubled down on his comments, saying he's guilty as charged in his discriminatory beliefs. Chick-fil-A has launched another international storefront in Canada in September and also drew a bevy of protesters over the same issues. We also have a store over here, Kev, called the Hobby Lobby that is very much like that. Their owners are very religious, very spiritual, and as a result, they protests all the time. And it just seems like those with any sort of
This is
spiritual grounding ends up getting...
Think about it though, Joe, because the main thing that most of these people are shouting for is equality. Yet they're discriminating against people that aren't just totally selling out to their way of life. It's if you don't
exactly,
you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's crazy.
Yeah,
I don't know.
I don't really know what to tell you or how to even interpret what's going on in this crazy world. But I can tell you,
in a world where men are even considering that they want to enjoy the female process of having periods, and not only that, but we're now like putting tampon machines in toilets to pander to that mental illness. Because I'm sorry, that's a form of mental illness. If you honestly think you can biologically like go through a period when you're a man,
I agree.
Something far wrong there.
Good for the president of Chick-fil-A for not bowing down and groveling and going through this whole apology thing that you see a lot of them do.
Yeah.
Stuck to his guns. Said, hey,
really
if that's what you want to call me, then whatever. I'm guilty as charged. I'm not going to change my views or cave to any of this just because you say I have to or you think I should. Ridiculous, man. It's ridiculous.
Absolutely.
Beyond ridiculous. And that almost takes us up to our 90 minutes. The golden time. Yes, I'll be back tomorrow with a members only stream. I'll be going right from here to make a community post. So if you're a member of the channel, keep an eye open for that. It's going to have your very secret squirrel link in there to tomorrow's undisclosed location for the VIP lounge. It will be at a secret URL here on YouTube. Sounds more exciting than it is, Joe. Come on.
Yeah, secret agent, man. Well, it is HTTP.
Come on, we need to get up to 100 because my really, really attractive handler is going to be so impressed if we can get to 100.
Your ego will handle it well, too.
I don't have an ego, Joe. I don't, dude. I don't. Yes.
Dream on, bitch.
Oh, that's terrible. Absolutely terrible.
Oh,
Excellent. Kristen's kicking people out the chat. Yeah, awesome.
Very good. Life is good.
That's a good point, though. That's a good point, Mike, in the chat room. Baphomet, he's a bit he, a bit she, kind of a pronoun nightmare. You know, and we know that these people are, I hate to say it, but it's true, a satanic death cult at the very top, the ones that are making these agendas work and happen. And that's the kind of thing that they kind of like worship.
you ever seen the Starbucks logo upside down?
No. Are you going to put me off my Starbucks, though, Scott? No, you'll never put me off Starbucks. All right, have a look.
There's a lot of weirdness if you look at it upside down. It kind of has a strange pentagramish Baphomet look to it.
Yeah, I can see where you're coming from.
Yeah, I've seen some people.
That already causes enough drama when it's the right way around because it's ISIS, right? Yes, indeed. People.
Oh yeah, it is. It is supposed to be
the goddess Isis.
Goddess Isis.
Yes, known for being the goddess of coffee back in Greek times.
Goddess of coffee, yes,
Yeah.
the goddess of barista.
Yeah, Lordess of the coffee bean. So they say, Joe. So they say. Again, on one of the hidden pages of the Emmanuel tablets of Tooth, may I just add. You know how like Enoch was like occulted from the Bible? Well, the enamel tablets, they've got bits that are hidden as well, Joe. They're secreted around the planet at different locations, and only when you line up the 13 crystal skulls do you retain the lost pages of the enamel tablets.
They say that if you decode enamel tablets of Tooth, feel the symbol at the end. That
Your gate's cutting you out back there, big man.
Sorry, I'll sit up.
It's like you're falling down into the abyss. You know, Scott, you stare into the abyss, you become it.
Yes, I know. I was saying that if you decode the enamel tablets of Tooth, and all is revealed at the very end, the symbol that shows up is a traffic cone.
Oh. Well, I was thinking, with the
what the legends speak of.
The black-eyed children, vampires, Tooth, could they be like secretly like sent here by Tooth himself? Would you reckon, Joe?
Possible. Maybe.
1,000 ninja black-eyed children sent.
At least, I would say it's going to take a little more than that.
Sent from the Temple of Tooth.
The Temple of Tooth has very limited impact.
I'm going to make a Photoshop where I'm literally going to take a massive tooth and carve out like windows and yeah. Yeah, we'll have us at the Castle of Tooth.
That's some synchronicity. I've thought about the exact same idea.
See, Scotty, that's because we're on that same frequency, man. Yeah. Folks, listen. We've had a blast here today. Regla girl, great to see you in there. Mannerus, Dinny. So many people, too many to mention. Now, last night we had fun opening up the phones. I am looking into having a phone added to the Skype here, so that we may be able to add that kind of dimension to the weekend streams and maybe the safe space as well in the very near future.
Interesting.
Something to look forward to, because we all agree before we came on air here today that you people out there, you truly do. We could like cruise and really dig for information for days on end, weeks on end, but it's not quite the same as getting that story passed on from somebody that's been there. I don't know, and that randomness to it, guys, it just adds to it. It's a known radio formula. It works. Art Bell, Coast to Coast, Clyde Lewis. Oh, mentioning Clyde Lewis, damn, how did I do that? It just so happens I'll be on Coast to Coast this Monday to talk about Nessie, and that is, I believe 8 p.m. on the West Coast, and that's 11 on the East Coast. 4 in the morning over here in the UK.
You're gonna be on Ground Zero?
Yes, I'm gonna be on Ground Zero talking about the Loch Ness Monster.
You said Coast to Coast.
Oh, did I? Oh dear. Damn. Got it wrong. See?
Well, it's
maybe that's a Freudian slip.
Could be.
Freudian slip.
Maybe I'm just throwing it out there into the universe, and myself and Natasha are gonna lock horns and it'll be radio heaven.
You think so, huh?
I don't know. I would no. Probably not, but I tell you what, if it happens now, we'll look back on this day and we'll go, see, look, you got to be really careful, even when you like say things by mistake, how they can manifest out there.
Like the butterfly effect. You have rippled. You've thrown it out there, and it's rippling through time.
It's the luck of the cone. What are we going to call him? Wee Coney. What are we going to call him, though? Alconzo? I think Alconzo is quite cool.
I like Coney. I just like something short.
Yeah.
Coney?
Coney. It's too close to Comey.
What do you reckon, Joe? Any shouts? I reckon Alconzo is quite cool, man.
Alconzo?
Alconzo. Yep.
Alconzo? Okay.
Fantastic.
Alconzo.
Yeah, Alconzo for now. He can evolve.
Yeah, we'll do Alconzo for now.
He's a crocheted inanimate object. We can call him whatever the bloody hell we like. It can change.
Sure. Yeah, how do we know what Alconzo identifies as?
When you've got eyeballs like that, I pretty much think he's the same as us. He doesn't give a shit.
Right, exactly.
He just wants to identify what type of weed he's on. Look at those eyeballs. They're worse than mine.
Mm-mm.
Indeed. People in the chat room, Lecone. Yeah, I'm not a big fan of the French. Really. I don't know.
Oh, what about instead of... What about Conan?
Conan. Oh, I like that.
I like that
Conan, because it kind of like incorporates Anne as well. Conan.
Oh, very nice.
The
very
barbarian,
nice.
and she is a barbarian, folks. See? Armed with a shoe and a cone.
Trouble.
Big trouble. Getting coned in the bed tonight, boys. Woo! Not after that, Luke, I'm not. I choose chat over anyone else's. Oh, that is absolute. That means a lot, Mart. And Mart, thank you for calling in to Freaky Friday last night. That was awesome.
Yeah, very nice.
I hope you don't find any more like unintended or unwanted lodgers up in your attic, man. That was bizarre.
Yeah, right. That was crazy.
Talk about, I mean, it's one thing having maybe like bats or rats that move into the house or something, but like full-blown grown dudes, not good, guys, not good. Shoebarian, I like that. And Spider Killer. She is. Oh, she is. Absolutely. Alconzo is funnier. Yeah, I like that. So then, guys, until tomorrow, right, we'll be back at the usual time for the usual stream. We'll try and find some... how about we take a look at if there's been updates on Shadow Dude tomorrow?
No, tomorrow would be a good thing to go see if there's an update.
Yeah, let's take it creepy tomorrow. Let's go creepy cryptids and all that kind of good woo, Joe.
You got it, man.
Yes, indeed. So we are going to get out of here. Remember, if you want to support the channel, click join, become a member. We'll be back tomorrow. There's a really lovely PayPal link in the description, but only if you want to. Always love the PayPal. But until next time, folks, keep it real. You know, keep searching for the woo, but not to the point where your brain turns to black goo. Absolutely. See, Joe, I have got this stuff absolutely sussed, my friend.
You sure do, buddy.
Sussed.